The nukes have been thrown. The final Axis powers have been defeated. But disagreements over the future of the world are threatening to tear apart former allies. Luckily, there is a simple solution. Let's instead present the case to the possible history viewers. So far, their track record as diplomats is unmatched, with absolutely perfect solutions to the Napoleonic Wars and a division of Africa that ensured peace for all time. I'm sure they will do great this time too. Now I do have to applaud you all. The turnout to this peace conference was gigantic. The big three, cynically, put all of their faith in the collective wisdom of over 17,000 viewers. And the next vote, which will be the biggest one yet, is already ready too. Subscribe to be notified for that one. But for now, let's see how you fix the world after World War II. A lot of territory is up for discussion, and let's start with the weak underbelly, Italy. In our timeline, the Italians lost very little in Europe, only losing Albania, Istria, and some Greek islands. Will you be as kind to the Italians? Let's start small. The Italians would have to give up the Austrian portion of southern Tyrol, giving it to whomever gets Austria later. But interestingly, in the Istrian Peninsula, not all is lost to the Yugoslavs, as Italy secures themselves the southern portion. All in all, neither are big changes for Italy. But wait a minute, did I say Italy? I must have misspoken. I of course mean northern Italy. Following the end of World War II, Italy was cut in half. The kingdom likely survives in a rather conservative south, while northern Italy finds itself under social democracy, as the communists and socialists are elected into power democratically. But two Italys, that's not enough. When the Italian dictator was asked, "How often do you think of Rome?" he just started rambling about how Rome civilized the whole known world and was the best thing to ever happen for just about 3 hours. It became really awkward. To prevent Italy from going on the warpath again, we had to sever their ties to Rome. So, the Papal State was enlarged around the capital to remove Rome from either Italian state. Alright, with a brighter future secured for Italy, the big three are becoming increasingly confident in your ability to create peace. The next task on the docket, the savage land of the Balkan. And in real life, the Balkan peace deal was a complete joke. Like, Bulgaria had lost the war, yet after, they somehow found themselves expanding, being allowed to keep southern Dobruja. That's a joke. Luckily, you guys were very harsh on Bulgaria this time around. Immediately, the Bulgarians lose a good chunk of their south to the Greeks, but they are allowed to keep southern Dobruja. But I somewhat feel like I'm forgetting something. Oh yeah, Bulgaria doesn't exist anymore, being completely folded into Yugoslavia. Now we just need to discuss small Albania. The Greeks were being such crybabies for having been invaded through Albania, so, as compensation, the Greeks could seize southern Albania too. Peace in the Balkans secured, I'd say. But now everyone, make sure you're seated. The peace deal in Africa will get insane. Libya gets independence. Yeah, I know, we're getting a bit unrealistic here. Then, in the Horn of Africa, Ethiopia gets to annex both Italian colonies in the region. Phew, alright, we got through the hard part. Back to Europe, let's complete our southern Europe. By now, Europe is entirely devoid of ultranationalist forces. Well, not entirely. One unstable state of unstandable ultranationalists still holds out against the forces of the Allies. But Stalin has an idea. The West should finish the job and invade Spain to restore democracy. With this, our new southern Europe is completed, with an interesting mix of socialism and democracy. Though, interestingly, neither Italy nor Yugoslavia are Soviet puppets, despite their socialist governments. Seeing the amazing future southern Europe is headed towards, Stalin is finally convinced that the viewers will also be fair when dealing with Eastern Europe. Both before and after the war, the Soviets have struggled extremely hard in securing control over the region. I am sure the possible history viewers will recognize this fact and compensate the Soviets fairly for their war struggles. Let's start with Romania. Before the war, the Soviets had taken Bessarabia. You decided that the Soviets should return this territory, but Romania will turn into a Soviet puppet. A fair compromise, I would say. But not all is well for Romania, as northern Transylvania is disputed between it and Hungary. You decided to resolve this dispute in Hungary's favor, but Hungary would also become a Soviet puppet. For now, things seem well enough for the Soviets. Next up, Slovakia. Should they keep their independence? No. Czechoslovakia is completely restored to their pre-war Slovakian border. But they don't become a Soviet puppet. Instead, their democracy is restored and even strengthened after the war. Now the Czechs do have a big issue, as there are a lot of Germans living in the Sudetenland. Whatever ends up happening to Germany, this issue needs to be solved. Luckily, you guys realized one crucial fact. If we give the Sudetenland to Germany, the Germans can't demand it later on. Genius. Another problem expertly solved. But now, perhaps the greatest prize in Eastern Europe is Poland. Let's see what compromise you cooked up for them. The Soviets had taken a significant chunk of territory from the Poles during the war, but it was decided that they had to return these territories. Alright, interesting, but surely the Soviets get influence in the new state, right? Nope. In fact, in just about the worst possible outcome from the Soviets, the pre-war military regime returns, as an authoritarian, anti-communist government. Alright, that may not be ideal. What about Finland? Much like in Poland, the Soviets had seized some territories during the war. Yeah, you guessed it, they have to give this land back too. I'm starting to think that Stalin is heavily regretting this decision. Anyway, we have one final subject to end Eastern Europe on, the Baltic states. You know the story by now. The Soviets annexed them during the war, but democracy is stronger than force, and Stalin has to retreat here too, and Lithuania expands a little bit. To make things even worse, the Baltic states have become Western democracies as well. Yeah, I'm sure the Soviets will never regret and try to reverse this peace conference. Peace in the East is secure. I'm sorry for the quick intermission, but by far most of you aren't subscribed. This Saturday, I will release a follow-up to this video, and more importantly, you can already vote for the next episode, about the treaties following World War I from the description below. Just please, finish the video first. Alright, it's time to pivot to Asia. First, the future of the colonies and the territories captured by Japan during the war. Let's start with the British Raj, the most important colony in the region. We all know the common options. Some type of division along religious lines, or a united subcontinent. Which one did you guys pick? Neither. You decided that the subcontinent should be completely balkanized, roughly around ethno-linguistic lines. That's certainly a choice. Interestingly, you went the opposite direction with French Indochina. The French are forced to leave, but the entire region is united into a new state, likely under Ho Chi Minh, but especially as time goes on, this would start to look more and more like Vietnamese domination over the others. Now Thailand had joined the war on Japan's side, but they are left without consequences, as Japan had forced them into the conflict. Now as the Dutch are forced to abandon Indonesia, the region is forced to be completely divided, roughly along ethnic, religious and language lines. To add to the chaos, British Malaysia would unite with Malay regions of Indonesia, creating this horrendous but massively powerful Malay state. To the east too, Australia has to let go of eastern Papua, creating a unified island. To complete Southeast Asia, the Philippines would gain their independence. But we've obviously left the best for last, as we still have Japan to deal with. Surprisingly, their losses are minor. Southern Sakhalin is given to the Soviets, and Korea, under a joint US-Soviet provisional government, holds a free election. The American candidate comes out on top, unifying the peninsula under capitalism. Now in Manchuria, a very strange thing occurs. Despite the Han Chinese having an absolute majority in the region, a new Manchu Qing state is created, undoubtedly with population transfers between the two states being planned. Similarly, Mongolia sees major expansion, which terms them majority Han Chinese as well, and without removing the Han from these regions, both are likely to be extremely unstable. Anyways, what happens to Japan itself? The US installs a new democratic regime in the state, giving the US major control over East Asia. But things will get even better for the Americans, as they are allowed to take control over the island of Taiwan, with promises to return it to China as soon as the chaos is over, because let's be honest, the communists have no actual chance of winning the civil war. Am I right, guys? Guys? Anyway, I'm sure this will not become an issue into the future at all. And once again, kudos on a job well done, viewers. Asia has been fixed. Alright, back to Europe. It's now time for the division of the German Empire. The first question is, should a German state even exist? Ever since the formation of a German state, they have broken the balance of power in Europe and caused trouble again and again. Perhaps it's time to say enough and remove Germany from the map again. You guys agreed. But before we see what replaces it, we have some foreign states nibbling at the German borders. Poland expands completely into Silesia, which means this Sudeten territory cannot go to Germany without creating a pseudo-landlocked enclave. So we'll hand it over to Czechoslovakia instead. In the north, Denmark pushes all the way onto Holstein, gaining them control over the Kiel Canal, meaning Denmark now has full control over who does and doesn't get to enter the Baltic Sea. In the west, Luxembourg is expanded into German territory, while the Dutch gain a frankly excessive amount of German territory, including the major cities like Köln and Aachen. All in all, Germany was severely mutilated in this peace deal. But we've yet to carve up Germany itself. In the south, we see a restoration of the pre-1870 German kingdoms, as well as a Habsburg Austrian state, which also expands into Tyrol and the Sudetenland. These southern German states then find themselves in a confederation under the Habsburgs. These new states are all monarchies, adding a strange new twist to the post-war political makeup of Europe. But the north may just be more interesting. In East Prussia, neither Lithuania nor Poland gets anything, as instead a Prussian state is recreated, led by Wilhelm III von Hohenzollern, son to the late Wilhelm II. Clearly, the return of these monarchs are meant to restore order and stability to the German region. Moving west, the Prussians also regain Pomerania and Eastern Germany, resulting in a Prussia that looks like it was transported from 2 centuries ago. To the south, we have a restoration of the Saxon kingdom as well, which sees expansion into the Sudetenland. Now finally, we have Western Germany. First, a state is created in the remaining Rhineland, but this one is a democratic republic, not a monarchy like the rest. To complete our map of Europe, a Hanoverian and Hessian state are also rebuilt, with their respective royals returning. But we can't just leave Germany like this, as each of the states would be too weak to ensure stability. The 4 North German kingdoms also federate under the Hohenzollerns. Now this new Germany is surprisingly stable. Should the Hohenzollerns or the Habsburgs get any crazy ideas, their federated kingdoms are more than powerful enough to stop their crazy leaders. So, as we look upon our hard work today, this is the new Europe we have created. An interesting mix of Western democracies, communism and socialism, 2 surviving dictatorships, and a bunch of kingdoms returning. We even have a theocracy under the Pope. A very interesting outcome, which I am sure the West is extremely content with. Especially since the kingdoms and dictatorships will also prefer the West over communism, resulting in de facto Western domination over Europe. Now subscribe to join me Saturday, when I explore a continuation of this scenario. For now though, I invite you all to the comments, where you can vote for the ultimate conclusion of World War I. Not just can you rewrite the former Central Powers, but you will also get control to decide the fate of the Russian Civil War, giving you all an insane amount of territory to play with. Enjoy! But that's where I'll end this video. Thank you all for watching, and consider leaving a like and a comment to support the content. Subscribe for 2 more videos every single week. To continue watching, click on one of the 2 videos on screen now. Again, thank you all for watching, and goodbye.